Now I'd like to show you a third method in TV Paint for how you can do a camera move. So we're going to use our same source file here, but in this case I'm not going to create a new project. I'm going to apply the camera directly in here because in TV Paint Pro there's a separate tool called the Camera Tool, and it's here in the main panel. You select that icon. Now this is a virtual camera that is slightly different than the keyframer or the multiplane camera tool, and it's very useful for quickly setting a camera move. And it's different, it's got some similarities, but you'll see the difference now. So if you have TV Paint Pro, you can use this. In this case, I'm just setting the camera view. Now, this aspect ratio is for the full size of the paper that was scanned and loaded. So I actually want to change that. So I'm going to go to the Parameters button. Parameters lets you set the aspect ratio. There are preset aspect ratios in here, like 1920 by 1080. In this case, I'm going to set it for 2K film, which is 2048 by 1536, which is a standard 4:3 aspect ratio. So then just click OK. Now you can see it changed. Now this is a case where you can use your field guide and camera field guide if you scanned one in. Because if you set the camera view centered and then pull it out, you can see how there's my start field at 7 field, 4 south, 5 east. Then you click anywhere else in the interface and it creates a second camera field for you. So I'm going to go to the last frame, center that right here, and drag it out so that it ends up at 11 field. So now this is exactly equivalent to the field guide that I worked out on paper and scanned. And if you drag along the timeline, you can see a preview of that's the move. What's a little different about this is you may notice that the increments it's moving in are even. It doesn't have the slow in and slow out that I had previously. Let me adjust that down slightly. Okay. So to do that, there's a time profile here in the tool panel. Double click on that and that brings it up. You also have that same time profile I should mention in the keyframer and the multiplane tools. This is helpful for doing a slow in or a slow out on the move. Switch it to spline mode. Then you can add these points so that you get a little curve at the beginning and a curve at the end. So that's going to start off slower, accelerate in the middle, and then slow in at the end. It's a subtle thing, but it helps keep the camera move from being too abrupt when it's starting and stopping. Now I'm going to hide those layers and just play back the movie. And there's our camera move. Bring the opacity back up on those layers. So that was simple. And now you don't actually have to render this to a new movie. As long as you're happy with the move, you would just go to the File menu, Export. Now in this case, you're going to set the view from not the project. Project view would show everything, and it doesn't show the camera move. So make sure that the view is set to camera. So now you can see it's showing the camera view. It hasn't affected your original at all. This is your original scene is still the same as you had it when you scanned it. but this is going to render out a movie that has the camera move applied. So then you would just render this or export this as usual to whatever format you prefer, either the AVI or the movie. I'll show you one more thing before I end here. This is a camera move that is in a straight line. You can also introduce curves into this. So if you were to create a new point here in the middle, you can see how the camera is going to curve up slightly before it pulls out. It could also be curving downward like that. So it's a subtle thing, but something you should know is possible to do. Be careful when you're setting another point like this that you don't have it go down too low, because watch what will happen. You see how it goes outside of the line? It'll dip down below the field line. So you want to be careful that you don't do that. Be sure that it stays within side of the artwork. You can set as many of these as you want. In a short scene like this, that's going to be too much camera movement. I'll show you. It's kind of chaotic. But you can see, in theory, how that would be something that would be useful for certain types of moves. Maybe not that extreme. But if you wanted to have the camera follow a slightly curved path, that's how you can do it. And sometimes using the camera tool is simply useful if I can reset it. Just keep a single camera field, and it's for framing. Let's say that we decided in this scene we're not going to have a camera move. It's just going to be framed like that. The rabbit hops in from off screen. So that's just setting the view, and there's no move at all. But then the same thing when you export, you're going to export with the camera view, so your final movie will be only what the camera is seeing. Remember that you can save your camera moves. So if you, from the command save, you can name it whatever name it has for the scene, and then that will allow you to load it in later if you need to re-render the camera move for some reason. So I would always do that. I think that's a smart feature, and is something you definitely want to take advantage of, so that if you ever need to redo it, you don't have to recalculate the move. You can just load the move that you already saved.